Last year, my family and I went camping in a small forest campground. My parents said I could bring one friend along, so I felt a bit excited about it, but part of me also wanted to stay home and play the video game I got for my birthday a few weeks earlier. The night before our trip, my dad told me I could invite a friend, but just one. That made me really happy, so I called my best friend right away. It took some convincing, but he finally agreed to come. He said he needed to check with his mom first. About an hour later, he called me back and said his mom said yes, and he could join us on the camping trip. My best friend Leo and I stayed up really late, playing Halo and talking about our upcoming camping trip this weekend. I explained to him that it wasn't your typical American campground with parks, pools, and lots of fancy RVs and trailers. It was actually in a very remote place. There were a few RVs, but most campers there use tents. Leo worried it might not be fun, but I reassured him. I told him about all the cool things we could do, like bringing our bikes for rides on the trails, going fishing at the nearby lake, and enjoying activities like sitting by the fire and making s'mores. I mean, there were so many things to do. On our first night, we played badminton and had a blast. The days passed quickly, and we were having a lot of fun. Now it was Saturday night, and my family and I were getting ready for bed. But Leo and I weren't tired at all, and we didn't plan on going to sleep soon. Leo and I had our own tent, which was cool because we had our own space away from the grown-ups. I told Leo we should go explore the woods and find some trails we hadn't seen yet. He was up for the adventure, so we both grabbed flashlights and waited until we were sure everyone else was asleep. We left our tent quietly and began walking. We waited until we were about 10 feet away from the camp before turning on our flashlights. We didn't want to wake anyone up. Leo had the idea that we should try walking through the woods without using our flashlights for as long as we could. I wasn't too keen on the idea, but I didn't want to seem scared in front of my friend, so I agreed. We walked for about 3 or 4 minutes without really knowing where we were going. It was so dark that Leo and I could hardly see each other. Shh! Did you hear that, Leo? What? I whispered softly. I turned on my flashlight, and Leo did too. Shh! Did you hear that? I asked. Yeah, what was that? Leo said. I'm not sure. It really sounded like someone was whispering, and it scared us. When we turned our flashlights back on, the whispering stopped. We walked with the lights on for a minute or two, and then we thought it was time to turn them off. Less than a minute after we turned the lights off and kept walking, we heard the whispering again, but it was very faint. The sound of sticks and leaves crunching beneath our feet almost covered it up. We couldn't understand what was being said. It sounded like random talking. We turned on our flashlights right away, determined to figure out where the noise was coming from. We looked around for a moment, and then Leo shouted my name. I turned to him, and he looked shocked, like a deer caught in car headlights, staring at something. I hurried over to see what had startled him. There was an older woman who appeared like she hadn't slept in days or taken a shower for weeks. She was lying on the ground, not wearing much clothing. I stared at her in disbelief. It was hard to believe what I was seeing. Then she got up and said sorry. Before she walked away, she apologized again and explained that she was just trying to find her campsite. Then she ran away in the other direction. After that, Leo and I hurried back to our tent because we had seen enough for one night. We chatted about what happened inside our sleeping bags until we managed to fall asleep. The creepiest part of the whole situation was that we were the only campers around for quite a long distance, maybe half a mile. That was definitely the weirdest thing that ever happened to me.
Last week I got a surprising text from my boss. The message said I didn't have to work that day. I felt really happy because it meant I could do whatever I wanted. My kids were at school and my wife was at work, so I had the whole day to myself. Plus, I still got paid even though I wasn't working. It was like having a day off with pay. I got up, followed my usual routine of taking a shower and eating breakfast. I didn't rush like I usually do in the morning, which was nice for a change. With a smile, I sat down and turned on the TV, thinking about how I wanted to spend my day. I like staying at home, but I also like going out sometimes. I get bored easily, and watching too much TV isn't my thing. So I decided to go hiking on a nearby trail that I found on Google. I thought about taking my dog, Charlie, but I didn't because the hike seemed long and difficult. Plus, I wasn't very experienced in hiking, so I wanted to go alone and not tire out Charlie. The trail was about a 30-minute drive away. While on my way there, I texted my wife to let her know my plans. I packed everything I needed for the day, even though I didn't expect to be gone for more than 3 hours. I brought some extra supplies, just in case. This wasn't something I did a lot, but it wasn't completely unlike me either. I'd been asking my wife to go hiking with me for a while now, but we've been busy. I've always liked being outside, so I was very excited. When I got there, I parked my car and got out. I took my backpack and started walking. It was noticeable that there weren't many people around, which I guessed was normal because it was a Tuesday at 8:45 in the morning. Before I entered the trail, I saw a wooden post with a map on it that showed the whole area. I wasn't exactly sure how long the hike would take, but I thought it was probably a pretty big trail. I went on a 4.5-mile hike, and the scenery was really beautiful. The day was perfect with a gentle breeze and just the right amount of sunlight peeking through the trees on my back. It was exactly what I needed, and I was having a great time enjoying nature. Around 20 minutes into my hike, I put my headphones on, but after a few songs, my music suddenly stopped. I took out my phone to restart the music and saw that I only had 1 bar of service. Right after that, as I was putting my phone back in my pocket, a deer suddenly appeared behind me. It darted across the trail very quickly and disappeared into the woods within seconds. I got really scared when the deer surprised me. I jumped and my heart raced. I let out a quick laugh when I realized it was just a deer, and I felt relieved. But then, I looked to my right and saw someone sitting on the ground with their legs crossed, staring at me. They were wearing a creepy mask and seemed to have something on their lap, maybe a weapon. It looked like an axe from where I was standing. I said, "Hello, what are you doing?" The person stood up, and I thought it was a man because he was tall and looked strong. He started walking towards me, patting his hand with the axe. He didn't say anything. I quickly walked back the way I had come and left my backpack on the ground. I just wanted to get away from there as fast as possible, and I wasn't thinking about my backpack at all. The person started to speed up, jogging toward me. That's when I started running as fast as I could, and he did the same. I had been on the track team in high school for 4 years, so I was prepared for a foot race. Then he threw the axe at me, probably realizing I was faster. The axe hit my left ankle, and it hurt a lot. It made me trip and fall to the ground. I screamed in pain, but managed to get back up. Luckily, the axe hit my ankle with the butt or the shoulder part, not the sharp blade. He was getting closer to me, but I managed to grab the axe before he reached me. I ran as fast as I could, even though my ankle hurt. The man was really tall. I'm 6'2", and he was probably 4 inches taller than me. I prayed that I could find the strength to escape and get home safely. My wife and kids were all I could think about. My only chance of surviving was running or defending myself with the axe, but I really didn't want to hurt anyone. He might have been stronger than me if it came to a fight. I just kept running, and I didn't look back. I ran as fast as I could. I still had a long way to go back to the car, and I was determined to make it, even though I wasn't sure about my chances. I really made that guy work hard to catch me. After a few minutes of running, I finally looked behind me and saw that he wasn't there anymore. But I didn't stop running. I dropped the axe because it was slowing me down, and I ran all the way back to my car. I took a few quick breaks to catch my breath. Finally, I reached my car, but I still didn't have any phone service, and there was no one around to help me. When I was leaving the park in my car, the man with the creepy mask was standing by one of the stop signs near the exit. He just stood there and stared at me. His eyes felt like they were looking right through me, but I tried not to pay attention to him. I called the police and told them what happened, but that guy is still out there somewhere, hiding in the dark, searching for someone else. I never found him, so I haven't gone hiking again since then. My wife and kids are my top priority, and together we've found happiness in simpler and safer activities. And as for the masked man, I hope he's found a better path in life, away from causing fear and harm to others. My dad took me on a trip in the vast wilderness of Ontario, Canada, near the mountains. As we were exploring, we came across a giant cave. My dad noticed something. I noticed a blood trail leading into the cave, and he wanted to investigate. My dad had a shotgun, and I had a rifle, so we figured we were safe enough. As we made our way into the cave, We followed the trail of blood until it led us to a decapitated grizzly bear. Someone or something had completely severed the bear's head off of its body and left with the head when they walked out of the cave, hence the blood trail. It must have been like a trophy to whoever did that or something. He walked a bit further into the cave, and that's when we found something even more disturbing and absolutely heart-wrenching. There was a man that looked like he had been mauled by a bear. His insides were spilling out of his stomach, and it was the most gruesome thing I've ever seen. I think the old man reminded my dad of his father because the man looked extremely similar to him, and his dad had been shot and killed a few years back in a hunting accident, so it really hit home for him. My dad started crying and having a complete breakdown. At first we were terrified, especially me. The man's dead body looked like it had been sitting there for days, as his face and body was starting to decay and change color. We were completely bewildered and we didn't know what to do. My dad said we weren't going to call the police because we had touched the evidence and it was a murder scene, which would mean that we could potentially be a part of the investigation, should there be one. Even if we called the police, they might think we did something wrong, even though we didn't do anything bad. But my dad had to decide, so I let him choose. About a week later, we heard on the news why the person cut off the bear's head. It was because the bear had killed his friend, and he tried to save his friend by shooting the bear, but it was too late. They said the man cut off the bear's head because he was really mad. But we couldn't understand why he didn't call the police after his friend got hurt by the bear. The whole story is just really scary and strange. It makes you wonder if there's more to it. I think the man might have hurt his friend, or maybe someone else did, and then the bear ate him after he died. That's the only thing that seems logical to me. By the way, they don't know who the man who killed the bear is, and they don't have any information about him. It's all just guesses and stories we heard. Nobody has said they did anything, and the police don't know who could have done it. It's definitely a big mystery in my opinion.